What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back to the Inside Wisconsin Show here on YouTube. Click subscribe, and wherever you listen to podcasts, click download and follow. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson, Jay. This is a fun episode, man. Let's get after some cocktails and glasses of wine, shall we?
Right. I was making kind of notes in my sheet. I just put, hey, look, it's the liquor show. But it's fascinating, I think, because I tell people all the time, right? We are, in addition, I make jokes about bubblers. If you're going to alliterate, like we're a beer and brandy state for the most part. I get that some people will adjust the whiskey they want in their old fashioned, but most people, right? It's brandy old fashioned. That's like without saying. And you drink beer, and I don't know, like I get that there are microbreweries. I prefer Miller Lite. I like the guy that has the shirt that says "We spill more than you make." But you know what? I've been to liquor stores, and there's more than just the beer and the brandy shelf. And these people are helping to stock those places.
And the idea is they're made in Wisconsin. So obviously Miller Lite made in Wisconsin, founded here in Wisconsin in Milwaukee, which, by the way, if we ever connect with the master brewer of Miller, we've reached out. We've attempted to get in connection with those guys. They're fairly busy, those guys and gals. If we ever do, that's a whole show because we got some things. Yeah,
see, and I thought, wait, didn't we do the master brewer? Pat Murphy, loved the show. He was great. Apparently, I was misguided, and that's why we have each other, so that we can kind of keep ourselves, straight and narrow. Or if there's an interpretation that may have been incorrect, that's
master brewer. That is certainly one. I'm looking forward to watching that come together. Which I would love to watch Miller Lite get brewed or at least mixed. But anyway, we reached out to Miller. We're working on that. However, this episode's all about other types of things that adults drink here in Wisconsin that are made in Wisconsin, that are founded in Wisconsin. We have a cocktail in a can that was founded here in Wisconsin, and it's pretty big. Cocktails. And then we have bigger tons of winery, right? Tons of wineries, tons of wine being produced, tons of grapes being grown. That's something that not a lot of people think about when they think of harsh Wisconsin winters, is growing grapes or other types of fruit trees. So we cover a lot of ground, and it's a great conversation. You will connect with it if you too are, what do we call it? An alcohol consultant.
No, if you fit in one of these three categories, if you are a alcohol enthusiast,
okay,
or a drinking consultant, or maybe a beverage counselor. And my favorite part too, which I never thought, if you're a cellar rat, which I just thought, those were really bad teams that are in last place, but apparently it has, again, more than one meaning.
A lot of stuff cooking and a lot of stuff brewing and fermenting. We're going to get after it here. This is the mixology episode, liquor and wine edition of the Inside Wisconsin Show. Here we go.
Cheers.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. J.A., look, it took just over 70 episodes. My guy Jake's got a flannel on. We got another guy in flannel. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to get you one of these, buddy, because you're the flannel guy, and I love flannel. So
yes, Jake from Forgotten Fire Winery. He's the winemaker. We got a winemaker on the show now. All right, Jay, you go.
Well, first I thought it was just like a tablecloth, but if that counts, and I'm trying to think of the name of the winery. Is it Forgotten Fire? It's not big enough. I can barely tell. Is that?
I've got it. I'm having a hard time reading it right here.
Yeah, I can't read your cap.
I get teased a lot. I only own logo wear, so like I'm at funerals and my black shirts have Forgotten Fire, and it's wear a vest.
This is the first show I've seen that our boy here doesn't have an Inside the Wisconsin Show logo, so I'm not really sure why he's not representing the brand either today. But what can I say?
Embroidered on his underwear. He's keeping it under.
Yeah.
Hey, I feel like I've forgotten Wisconsin grew grapes. Like we grow cranberries, and I love cherries, and we got a lot of apple. What do you mean we grow grapes?
Yep. And there's a decent amount of really nice ones too, and so like our winery, we were kind of we didn't do any Wisconsin growing grapes for the first handful of years. And we just picked up some new owners a couple of years ago. And yeah, because there's so many of these great grape growers in Wisconsin, we started adding to our portfolio of Wisconsin grown grapes. And we just added one called Baco Noir, which is, I believe, the only grown crop in Wisconsin right now of that particular varietal.
Isn't
That's the
Baco?
first time.
Isn't that the Packers tackle that's always hurt?
I think we've got a label coming with like a injured knee on the
Yeah,
side.
I can't believe like that guy. I mean, I know he was good, but I didn't know he had a wine named after him. That's fantastic. The Bakhtiari or whatever that is.
Yeah, and he chugs wine, not beer. This other guy that you're thinking of, he chugs wine. Yep, that's him.
Yeah, I might be confused.
All right, so 13 years ago, Forgotten Fire Winery started. But let's be honest, Jake, like there are a plethora of wineries in Wisconsin. So John mentioned we grow grapes here, right? What else is it, though, about Wisconsin that does wine so well?
I think it's because we're all what I like to call alcohol enthusiasts. We like the social lubricant. You know what I mean? It's such a good social thing. And, you know, like, because we like our beers, we like our old fashions and our brandies. And and fruit wines are really big in Wisconsin. That's kind of like we say around here, like fruit wines keep the lights on, and then we go and win awards with our reds and whites. So
I'm writing down alcohol enthusiast. That's right up there with. I was in Ireland once, and there was a big bar, and it just said Kylie's Corner Drinking Consultants. And I thought, oh, well, there you go.
I might steal that. Yeah, we're not bartenders; we're drinking consultants.
We're just drinking consultants.
I'm stealing that. Sorry,
as it works through. Yeah, I think of cherry wine. I go to Door County. There's cherry. Like, I don't think I would risk that. And I had, my grandfather, he was like, I make a great dandelion wine. And I'm like, to what? Run your mower? Like, I'm not sure I'd take that either. How do I get over that, California grows wine and right? Like, how do I get to Wisconsin as a wine I should try?
Well, and so this is one of the other things is like in beverage is there's so many avenues you can go and like, someone can be a really big wine enthusiast and they're only scratching the surface. So what I always recommend to people is like come to the wineries of Wisconsin and do tastings and try several, and especially ones that maybe are outside your comfort zone. So like normally people that go dry or sweet. So like if you like dry ones, you kind of stay in the dry area. If you like fruit wines and sweets, Moscatos and things, you stay in the sweet. But I always, when I'm doing them at other places, like I'll do one or two that I don't normally even like. So it's like if I don't like, let's just say Merlot, I'm gonna try one at every place I go just to make sure that I really don't like it, and maybe there's that one that you do like. So like I'll tell people, they say your tastes change as you get older, and I kind of disagree with that. I think you just haven't drank enough. So I think you might have liked Merlot all along if you had that one early on. You just took you a while to get there. IPAs were like that for me. I didn't think I liked IPAs until I started having better IPAs. So
how does a guy become a winemaker? Do you just taste a lot and go, you know what, I'm into this. Let's do this for a living?
Again, I just am an alcohol enthusiast. And so like I came, I'm from Marinette where the winery's at. We're in the town of Peshko, but we're Marinette. And I came back home after the Navy, and I did construction growing up. So I went back to my roots to keep the bills paid. And I actually built the winery. So I was part of the crew that built the original building and the first edition. And the original owner, Joe, who's a mutual friend, plucked me off of the trusses and said, hey, come drink this wine. And I was like, man, this is good. If you ever need help, let me know. And so I'd help him out his first year as part-time. And then I was his apprentice for a year. He pulled me off the crew. And about a year into my apprenticeship with him, his appendix burst during a harvest. And he was in a hospital bed and just kind of gave me the old, you're the head winemaker now. And I just took it and ran. I've won several international awards now. And yeah, I guess there was just a knack for it,
So I feel like if you were sitting down in front of the boss and they're like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now when you're building the winery? Head winemaker probably wasn't in that interview. But it's funny because you say apprenticeship and we think of, electricians have and plumber. Like, what is the apprenticeship involved there? Because I feel like not a lot of us come with sort of even a low bar of winemaking notions when we start?
It's a lot of cleaning. So like in beverage, sanitation's everything. So like you're a cellar rat your first couple months and you're just cleaning tanks and, making sure you're practicing good sanitation processes. And then you learn a little bit more as you go along. And really in even in beer making, wine making, and distilling, like the core of it, the foundations are fairly simple. And then if you can understand that, it's real easy to branch out and kind of understand the rest of it, having a good foundation. So I was fortunate and had a good teacher and just learned those foundations. It sunk in. It just clicked for me. And then, yeah, I guess I just fell into it. I don't know.
I feel like there might be things that you need to have that sort of are like anything. If you're a sprinter, that you have to have some God-given speed. Like, do you have to have sort of a palate for this that just fits you, that maybe I don't have, or Trevor doesn't have, or somebody else on your construction crew didn't have, that you're born with some sort of gift that helps you be good at this?
I will say, like, the number one thing, and I tell people this all the time, it's such a dad preachy thing, but like, have a good work ethic, because you'll excel in anything if you have a decent work ethic. And I guess Joe saw that in me and brought me in. But as far as the palate goes, yeah, there's people who are just naturally good, and then it is something you can develop, though. It's definitely something you can improve on. But like, I think for like the world class like sprinters, like you were saying, like they actually have a legit God-given talent that they can, branch off of. I'll probably never have as good of a palate as some of the best sommeliers, but I've got enough to get me through, I guess.
And there's a certain way you're supposed to taste wine, and then you spit wine sometimes. Maybe the question is, how are you not hammered all day, every day? Like, how do you do this?
We do a lot of quality control,
Okay.
is what we like to call it. Yeah. And yeah, yeah, man, we do drink a lot. I'm trying to like make that sound not not so bad.
Well, but what's the there's got to be a way, right? I mean, how do you?
Oh
maybe
yeah,
how
that's
do
right.
you quality control your product? What's it about?
So, you like, can you use a lot of research and like know like, hey, what are we looking for when we say we want to do a wine a certain way? We say, hey, this is what we're looking for. So like the yeast strains that you're using can dictate what you're looking for. But I actually kind of buck the system when they're like, you should taste like this or you have to taste like that. I don't think that's necessarily true, because I always tell people, I'm like, taste it how you would drink it at home. Like if you're a swirler and taking your time and you do this kind of slurping which aerates it, you do all that, and you're going to do that at home, do that in the tasting room, because that'll keep the same. But if you're just going to have drinks at a bonfire with wine, you don't have to do all the aeration techniques and those kind of things either. We kind of always say, like, at the end of the day, it's alcohol. Like, we can relax a little bit. I know wine has a bit of a history of barrier to entry, and people will come in and they're afraid they're going to do it wrong. It's like, you can't do it wrong. It's personal. It's a very personal beverage. Is personal. You can't tell somebody you're not tasting tannins, or you're not tasting cherries. It's like, no, that's what they taste. You can't tell them they're wrong. So no wrong answers in wine.
Yeah, I don't get buttery, I don't get oak, I don't get all these things. I try really hard for my wife's sake, who loves it, and I just can't. We went to some tasting one time, and the guy's pouring. He's like, "Look at was it the veins or something when they
The
come down
legs,
the glass?"
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude? Can't you just go ahead and just fire it back?"
Yes,
You
you
know?
can. We're pro that. Yeah.
By the way, we need to get churches back on board, because they just go grape juice. I don't know what the deal is here, but they are really hurting you guys.
We got
like,
wine
not
at
my
ours.
church.
What is it?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, Mogan David, Mogan Hagen.
Yeah,
I don't
Mogan
know.
David. Mogan David. Yeah, Mogan David.
What are you drinking?
That's
MD 2020? Because
Yeah, Mogan David might have been.
Get
Yeah.
a little Mad Dog up there at the riser. That's awesome. Bring it on.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to go to your church.
Exactly. These people are hurting you. So, but do you work with other than sort of, even if you're not getting all your grapes from Wisconsin, do you work with other fruit that we have in the state? Do you use the cherry somehow? Do you use the cranberry or an apple to
Yeah, cranberries are Wisconsin. We get our apples and cherries from Sequest Orchard up in Sister Bay. We just started recently working with Cold Country Vineyards, and we got some wine, some juice from them. So we get juice into the winery, and we take it from juice to bottle. So we don't have the pressing equipment here. We kind of used to joke around that like we're not farmers, we're winemakers. So we leave the farming up to the professionals, and then we take it as juice and then bring it all the way to bottle. So yeah, so we've just started adding some Wisconsin grown grapes to our portfolio, but yeah, lots of cherries, lots of apple. We do a Cortland and Honeycrisp blend of apple for our apple wines and ciders. And yeah, we just opened a second location up in Bailey's Harbor, and you're going to start seeing a lot more Wisconsin wines at that location and a couple here at Forgotten Fire. So I've added, I don't know, I'll probably have 50 wines to the list by the end of next year.
Listen, that makes sense. When I go to a nice restaurant, I don't assume that the chef is the guy who is also, working the field.
Some they have those now. You can get those like farm to table. The butchers are the chefs. Those are pretty popular, and God bless those guys. I mean, like they know their product inside and out. And the growers who are winemakers, they are very knowledgeable. They'll know more than I probably ever will. So they're always great to pick their brains. But yeah, that's just there's too much rolling around in here for that.
I fight with those people out here all the time now, especially New. Like that's the New England, the New York thing is the real trendy. Oh, we have farm to table. I'm like, okay. I was born in Iowa. I got all relatives there in Wisconsin. Every meal you eat at a restaurant is farm to table. It's not like
that's not new.
Like I hate to say it, but if you go to Applebee's or Chili's, that's still started on a farm. Okay, it's not as sexy, and they're not charging you as much, but it's all kind of farm to table from where I come from. But
you're gonna get a lab-grown meat restaurant now, and it's gonna be lab to table. So where you got
lab-grown Angus? Come try here.
What do your Navy buddies say that you were like, oh yeah, sure, gunner's mate and winemaker? That goes like, are they ever like?
They're like, of course you were. They know me. They've seen me at my worst. They're like, oh, that makes sense. So.
that maths.
Yeah.
Sometimes we find our calling, and sometimes our calling finds us.
That's what it is, And and like I said, we and I'm just such an enthusiast. I could see myself. We make a root beer here, so like I do some non-alcoholic stuff too. We do a lemon lime soda, root beer. I learned how to make hard cider, which is pretty much like carbonated wine. It's low alcohol carbonated apple wine. I've picked my brewing buddy's brains a couple times. I'm like, that's too many steps having to cook it down. And but I could see a distillery in the future. I always hit the new bosses up. I hit them up all the time. I was like, it's one more step after wine. I could do a brandy. It would be really fun. So.
When I hear you say non-alcoholic, my brain hears mixer, but
so that's what the lemon lime soda I started making it for is for making old fashions, and the root beer is great with Captain. It tastes like a root beer float. So
thirsty.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you guys just opened a spot in Bailey's Harbor, which is great because there were not enough wineries in Door County. So God bless you guys for putting one more up there that we couldn't possibly miss.
Well, Bailey's is on the lakeside. There's not as many on the lakeside.
It is,
so we're on that.
The peninsula is 5 miles wide, but by all means, the lakeside needed more. But there's something to it. Like, what is it about Door County that has so many wines? Some of them go by the latitude and the longitude, and then there's wineries down in southeast Wisconsin. There's one in my hometown of Jefferson now. You talked about what it is about Wisconsin, but specifically, why Door County? Is it just a tourist thing, to be honest?
I think that's how it started. You know what I mean? Like when you're getting that kind of traffic, how do you not put something that's going to see 2 million people in 2 months? It's just following that traffic. I think if there were 2 million people driving through Marinette every summer, you'd see more. We'd get that more. And it's gorgeous up there. I mean, it's hard to beat some of those views. So,
yeah.
It's funny though, Trev, you hit on a really, I think kind of a curious and humorous thing. You get the Bayside and the Lakeside, and you would think they are right, like California and Florida or and when I was training for the New York Marathon, and I didn't run a bunch, I'd run 10, 12 miles, but I'm like, wait a minute. I was over in Ellison Bay and now on the other side, and I still got to go back. And I'm like, I'm not even done with my run yet. So yeah, it is odd how that
it's not a 10K to go from Bay to Lake.
It's about that, really. Like that's all it is. That would be great. Maybe we come up with that. The Forgotten Fire Beta Lake 10K.
Lake Fire 10K. I am not a runner. I always said in the Navy, like when they had to do the run test, the PT test, I'm like, can I shoot it? Because if something, I'm not running away from anything. I'm gonna shoot it. If I can't shoot it, it's gonna win, and we don't need to run 2 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
Can we shoot it? Can I shoot
it? So we're sitting here, and I get you say you're not out on the farm, but you obviously have to know, the product, how it goes. Like, what are the challenges that Wisconsin winters present to your business?
So, and that's where the grape varietals that grow in Wisconsin are vastly different than your California and, your European and South American and stuff like that. So ours are a real cold, hardy grape, just like the people. So you get a little bit more jamminess to your grape, your finished product. You get a little bit more herbaceousness sometimes. But there's people who look for that too. And that's where there's always a niche for each thing. You'll have people that they don't like the California varietals. They don't like Cabs and Merlots and Chardonnays. They like those Prairie Fumé, the Baca Noirs, the Maréchal Foches, and they like those cold hardy grapes. So they've spent a lot of time figuring out what grape varietals will grow in Wisconsin, and I'm sure someday they're going to have, with all the hybridization you can do, they're going to have several grape varietals that are very similar, if not being able to tell the difference than to your Cabs and stuff like that. Eventually, I'm sure.
And there's something though about the wine industry where the juice has to be good. Let's be honest. You pop the top or you pull the cork out, it has to be good. But the outside matters too, right? The labeling matters, and obviously the name. So let's cover that ground. Your name is unique, and I'm not talking about Jake. I'm talking about Forgotten Fire Winery. So tell us the story.
So if people don't know, and I've heard that there's been some curriculums in Wisconsin that still talk about the Peshtigo Fire. So the Peshtigo Fire in 1871, I believe it's October 8th, was the same day as the Chicago Fire. But in Northeast Wisconsin, it was more devastating. It killed more people, just like millions of acres. But in 1871, national news is newspapers. No one's picking up Northeast Wisconsin's fire when there was a smaller fire in Chicago and like a building or two. I found out that wasn't that big of a fire in Chicago, but it just got blown up because it's Chicago. So we've always been known as the Forgotten Fire, because we were the worst forest fire in U.S. history, but no one knows us. So
interesting.
That's how we got Forgotten Fire.
Did it somehow jump to Door County? I know that sounds stupid, but I think it
did.
Went across the water.
So it originated in Peshtigo. So like growing up, I didn't grow up in Peshtigo, but 6 miles down the road. And so you thought, oh, the Peshtigo Fire. Well, the fire wasn't where I grew up. And then I saw the outline. I was like, oh, yeah, everything was on fire. And there were tornadoes going on. And so the tornadoes were sending embers across the bay and setting fire to Door County. So, yeah, a bunch of Door County got set on fire. There's actually a miracle spot. I believe it was a church. And there was this 1 acre patch surrounded by the church that didn't go up in flames, and everything else around it did. And I believe that's recognized as a miracle spot too.
And then it didn't have a catchy song like Mrs. O'Leary's cow, who was in the shed and the cow kicks it over. And now, maybe that's what it's too late now. It's 150 years. I don't know that we can get back in the game on that.
I think ours was kind of boring. It was just it was a logging community. So it was a really dry summer and dry fall. And it was just, they didn't practice. They didn't have Smokey the Bear. So there were fires everywhere, and it just kind of went up like a tinderbox. So.
Long as you say dry and the whole thing, if I give you a grape that is pick a standard grape, I don't know, but can you tell just by the size of it, putting in your mouth, if it's come from a wet season, a dry season? Can you pinpoint kind of where it's at? Like, how good are you?
I sure am not. No, no. That, like I said, that's definitely more the grower side. Those guys are pretty great. They probably could let you know and pick up some of that. But it does, like you said, if they had a dry summer or wet summer, that does change what you're going to have from year to year. That's why you always hear people say like, oh, that was the 2017 Cabernet from Forgotten Fire. That was my favorite one. And it's like, well, why is it different? It's like, well, we're a harvest dependent winery, so it's gonna be different as you go along. Where you have like your try not to badmouth, but like your yellowtails and stuff like that, those are like big mass producing, and there is some like not like chemical manipulation, so it tastes the same every time. They want theirs to be, the same every time. Where ours, it's going to be a little different every year. So if there's one you like, buy it and drink it.
So that leads me to where I was going to go. Like, how do we work on consistency when you're at the mercy of a lot of things? So I kind of, right, I guess if I have a Forgotten Fire X that I like, the Forgotten Fire Trevor, we try to get that as close as you can, but you're also inherently working against things that make it hard to do that.
And so the best practice that we do for that is you want you want the quality to stay the same. So like you're more worried about making sure you're putting out the best quality wine every time. And sometimes the flavor profiles will be a little bit different. Each grape has its standard flavor profile, and they don't really deviate a lot from that. But some years, like it'll be a little more passion fruit, or it'll be a little more lemon zest. And there's certain wines, like our Gewürztraminer, it always has lychee. Like that's kind of the telltale Gewürztraminer flavor profile is lychee, and you almost always can pick that up. And then there's the other ones on top of that. Sometimes it's lychee and lemon, sometimes it's lychee and rose, and things like that. But as long as you can keep your quality up, then you're pretty much good.
So we joke that we're obviously partial to Miller Lite on this show, but we also understand there is something to be said, though, that this is a beer drinking community, right? Like whether it's your light beers or your high lifes that my dad grew up drinking, or even the old Milwaukee's Best. And then obviously old fashions and mixers and all of that happens. And now all of them are in a can, and there's margaritas in a can. But there's a lot of people that maybe are scared of wine or haven't tried wine. Or what do you say to the person that is just, I'm going to drink beer, I'm going to have my old fashions, and that's it? Because I feel like they're missing out. I really like wine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's a two-part answer. Like if they just really don't like, they're like, no, I just like beer, then I say drink a Wisconsin beer. That's usually my go-to answer. Like buy a local craft, find a local craft one. And if you don't like the crafty beers, then like you said, drink Miller Lite. It's a Wisconsin product. But I always tell them, like, come do a sampling. If I can't get you to at least tolerate a cider or a wine, then you probably really don't like. And that happens. I just had a gal the other day. She only likes our cranberry wine, and that's like all she'll drink. And I was like, thanks. She walked out with 4 more bottles. I said, thanks for the job security. I appreciate it. So, yeah.
How labor intensive is this whole thing? Because I feel like growing a grape is tough. Like that's not easy. But when it gets to you, like I said, I had a grandfather who'd made it in his basement, so that would lend me to believe that it maybe isn't super hard. But if I want to make it really good, it feels like it's hard. And then yet once it's done, I got to just go let it sit for a while and don't do anything to it. So, how labor intensive is this process?
That's a tough question too, because it's a lot of ups and downs. So like we do filter our wines through 4 different filtrations, of course, medium, fine, and then 0.45 micron before bottling. So while the pump's running and while it's filtering, there's a lot of like checking Facebook and just monitoring gauges and making sure everything's going good. But then once that's all done filtering, then you got to clean, you got to sanitize, climb in the tanks. Yeah, my big self gets right into the tanks and start scrubbing. Not so much anymore. I have an apprentice now. My nephew, who was cutting the grass for us for a couple of years, is now my.
He's 9, by the way. He's 9.
He's 19. So
okay.
Yeah. So and he's a great worker. So I don't have to climb in the tanks as much anymore. I can send him in there with a scrub brush, and he has to do all the grunt work. And then while I'm doing the paperwork side, which is my least favorite, I would almost rather be climbing in the tank sometimes. But so the cleaning and the sanitizing is really like the labor intensive part of it, because you can't have any little bits and pieces from each batch going into the next one. You get some pretty funky stuff.
Yeah.
And then bottling, we bottle everything ourselves. So setting up the bottling line, having a little bit of a mechanical background, working on the larger gun systems in the Navy, the gearing and things like that. I can tweak our bottling line, and when it breaks down, I'm not totally clueless. There's still some stuff that's being held together by binder twine and duct tape, but it works. So
all this filtration. Are you saying people don't like a good pulpy wine?
It's starting to become a little bit more popular, especially in Europe.
Really?
They don't like, because I actually had a convention. A guy was selling us a clarifying agent, and I think he was from Italy or Spain, and he was like, I don't know why the heck you Americans they need to clarify your wines. It doesn't do anything. It's just it's a look thing. We want clear liquid. He goes, it doesn't change the taste. It doesn't make it any better or worse. It's just clear. And he goes, I wouldn't buy it if I were you, but if you were, buy this one. It's good. So I always love that.
This is a legit question, and
aren't they?
Why?
Previous ones not been?
No, some of them aren't. Let's be honest. This one is, and I mean this. Why does it hurt so bad the next morning? Why is a wine headache so friggin' bad?
I have an answer for you. So it could be several things. Some people do have a sulfite allergy, and sulfites are a preservative. That's usually more rare than you think, but people will lean on that just because they know wines have sulfites in them. Your French fries from McDonald's have sulfites. Your ice cream has sulfites in it. Normally, this is my IT question back to the consumer when they say this, like, is it plugged in? This is the dumb answer or question I ask them. How much did you drink? And they usually kind of like give me the look like, oh, come on. I'm like, hear me out. An 8-ounce glass of wine at 12% alcohol is like drinking 3 Miller Lights when you get down to it. So it's like, oh, I had 4 glasses of wine in a 2-hour period. Well, that's like drinking a 12-pack, and you're going to have a headache from that.
I found the problem.
It could be. I'm a big proponent of a 1-to-1 drinking water. That's helped me out in my old age. So like just trying to pound of water in between each drink has saved me a lot of headaches. So
J.A., anything to wrap it up? Otherwise, I have one request to Jake.
Well, one, I could have used that advice before the Packer game against the 49ers the other night, because that was sort of like I didn't wake up with a headache.
I had a headache Sunday because I did not practice that on.
Yeah, that part came through. No, I think it's all fascinating. The problem is you could just keep going, because I'm like, how do you choose the glass that you want to put it in, right? Because some's green and some clear. Like there's.
I have answers. I love talking
there's
about the
endless
industry.
questions. How about this? Do you ever just miss the tasting room, or as the headmaster, the head winemaker, you're pretty much head of the tasting room too?
I'm up in the tasting room a lot. Actually, it's kind of a family affair. My sister is like our tasting room manager. I've got my nephew as my apprentice, and so she does our events and is in the tasting room a lot. So I get pulled up into the tasting room on busy Saturdays through the summer. You can find me behind the bar. And yeah, like I get kind of yelled at sometimes because I'll talk people's ears off, and it's like, hey, you need to make room for the next group of people.
Mm-hmm.
You can't talk so much. But we do private tastings with me in the back. So I'll set up people in the back production room, and we'll pull barrel samples, and they get to try some stuff maybe that's not even on the shelves yet. So yeah, you can sign up for private tastings with me, and I get to do tastings pretty often throughout the year.
I don't know how tight the winemaking circle is in Wisconsin, but do you ever go either scout the competition, or do you ever go to like a restaurant and just play dumb?
No, we've never done any like sneaky stuff. In fact, we really like to a lot of the. I don't know any Wisconsin wineries that don't get along. I'm sure there are.
Well, even not that. I just mean like you go and the guy brings you out, hey, want to try this wine, and you go, and you either go, wow, this tastes like that, or you just give him the whole flavor profile and just blow the guy away. Like, wow, how did that guy know that? That's what I mean.
I usually try and be pretty humble about it. Like even if there's something, if you maybe not to my liking or like not something that I normally care for, it just shake and nod. Like, I don't know. No one likes kind of that know-it-all.
Smile and wave, boys.
I don't need. That's right. And I don't need to knock down anybody else, especially because, like I said, it's so personal. Just because I don't care for it or can pick it apart, it's like, okay, that's cool. You tasted the 8 different things in this. Like, I'm just gonna drink it. Like, yep. That's kind of how I am. Like, yeah, that's
You're
it's relaxed. Like I said, it's alcohol at the end of the day. You gotta not take it so
You're-
serious.
your humility is admirable.
Oh,
Because
thanks.
I'd pull it out and I'd just start, if the guy, even if I liked it, I'd just go, wow, this, play down, and then just riff it off to see if I can make the guy, stun him with what's going on.
Yeah, I've had people try
Sometimes-
that with me before, and that's why I'm like, I actually love shooting down the people that try and do that to the people in their group.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, look, just settle down. They're just trying to have fun.
Sometimes the teacher, always the student. That's what I hear. Before you go, Jake, we would be stupid not to ask for a winery tour. I know exactly where you're sitting in your winery. You're upstairs in the office.
I am.
So grab that laptop and show us the
Okay.
tasting room and where the magic happens quick. That'd be
All right,
awesome.
let's
Take us on a tour. This is not a large place,
Oh, I
Jay.
was
This will
gonna say,
take
wait,
about
I'm
30
upstairs in
seconds.
my office.
It's not, it's not that bad. I was gonna try and think that I turned off a bunch of machinery, so in case it did go off while we were going.
What is
it
that,
wasn't-
like, honey, did I leave the iron on?
Yeah, right. I have got some lights off too. So
There
we got
we
some
are.
tanks in the back there.
All right, good.
We call these the Italian sports cars because they cost about as much and they came from Italy. So we got those
Wow,
ones there. Got our barrel program. We got a bunch of barrels going on in the background
Good,
there. Trying to do this opposite and move my head. I'm not very good. At
Yep, I'm not a weatherman either. I hit every
Yeah.
time.
And then we got the bottling line. And we actually got that used from Von Stiel. So like a lot of the wineries do work together and like buy some of their old equipment. So like the big guys are pretty good about sending on some of their equipment to us little guys. And
That's-
we're all not so much little anymore, but we're and then we got our tasting room. We just had a nice facelift this last year. Again, Chris and Melissa, the new owners, they're just as great as Joe and Lindsay were. And they just did some renovations in here. We just added a bunch of tables. So I love it when people come. We've got several book clubs. We got some teachers that meet here every week, and they come in and just kind of decompress and can sit at the tables. We've got a little living room area, and then there's the production and back. And I'd be remiss to not show you guys our labels. I think we have the best labels in the state. My best friend from Marinette, actually, he does our wine labels, and we've got like Big Tom, our cranberry, Ducking Awesome's one of my favorites because it's green and gold. Walleye Otta, our lemon wine, Nice Rack, cranberry raspberry, one of our best sellers. Yeah, so we've got some seriously great labels, and Josh does a phenomenal job with those as well.
Love it. That's awesome, dude. Thanks for the quick tour. This was great, man. Now
I
this is going to
noticed,
be
I noticed as you walked out into the tasting, there's a dartboard. Is that just a pastime, or is that some sort of sobriety?
It's funny. No, that's my. This is back in the production when stuff's filtering. Like I said, you either check in your Facebook or you could shoot a game of darts.
Okay.
And then
That's awesome.
the other thing that almost no one ever gets, but I want to show it off, is on our bottling line. We did. I don't know if you're a Transformer fan. So this is Optimus Line. Our bottling line. So.
Optimus Lime.
Oh Lord.
Awesome. Jake,
I'm just
the
saying
winemaker.
you could use the dartboard before anybody goes home, right? Like, okay, how many of you had? And if they line up and they throw it through the doorway, then maybe they should sit
We're
down
calling them
for a
the
while.
Safe Ride. The Tavern League is a great program. We'll get them a safe ride home.
Good.
That's awesome.
We do have a bunch of yard games too, because we do live music in the summertime. So we've got yard games, bag toss, and all that stuff too. So all throughout the summer, live music, concerts, food trucks, some great food trucks we have in the area. So you can come on up, spend a whole day with us. And we go from noon to 4 for the music. So it's kind of that nice in-between time, catch a lunch, listen to some tunes, and then go get dinner afterwards. So.
Yard
Yeah,
games
right.
aren't what they used to be. When I was a kid, you had jarts, and you just took your life in your own hands. Now they give you a bean bag and say, "Here, have at it." Come on, people. When did we get so soft?
Alcohol consultants and jarts. What could go wrong?
You're right. I have played jarts.
Or you could also consider beverage consultants a great term.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I'm stealing that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
either of those. I like that. A drinking consultant or a beverage counselor. Both those are another way of just,
And
Yeah,
on a golf
drinking-
course, John, what do you call it?
What's that, Ev?
Swing lubricant?
I call it aiming fluid.
Yeah, aiming fluid. Yeah, I definitely have done aiming fluid. But yeah,
Yeah.
drinking
But I don't
consultant
know that
is
I've
my new
ever
bartender
had
term.
wine or anybody drink wine on the golf course. I've heard
That
some
would-
wine. Oh, don't go in there.
Yeah.
But no, I've never actually heard anybody, order
Well,
one
maybe we
up.
started a new trend. All right,
We-
get back to the fermenting, would you, Jake? This was
I got
awesome. Thank
back
you
to
for
work.
absolutely everything. We appreciate Jake, Forgotten Fire Winery, joining us here on the Inside Wisconsin show. Thanks, brother.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. Nothing brings Wisconsin together like a Packers party. And it's funny, J.A., we had one for the playoff game the other night. We invited a bunch of friends over.
Yep.
And we said, bring an appetizer and whatever you want to drink if it's not Miller Lite, because we don't have it. We just don't.
You don't?
No, anything else but Miller Lite. No, we have Miller Lite.
Oh,
You
I
would
thought
like
you were
to
like,
drink
wait a
Miller Lite?
minute. How do you not have it? Call me.
Oh.
They'll deliver it to your door.
Yeah, no, we
Put it
got
down
Miller
through.
Lite.
I was
know that
thinking,
it's just
I was thinking that as I may have popped one, and then there might have been a higher count by the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like, think of that. If you say Wisconsin to people, they say cheese,
okay.
they say Packers,
Yes.
but they'll say beer, but then they know what beer it is, right? Like, it's like Miller's literally is just, it's as synonymous as Wisconsin as the Packers.
It really is.
Maybe not quite. It's a little fun, but like people, oh yeah, you're Cheers, but they don't go, they can't name all, somebody who's cranking out the cheese. They might, but they know Miller's Wisconsin. Like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, they do. That's
Like, it's like most beers, they go out and you go, psh, and theirs goes Wisconsin when it opens. I don't know if yours does. Mine does when you do it.
Johnson.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Wisconsin.
The last Packer game of the year. Thanks again for allowing us to use your seats. A buddy of mine that was there had no idea. He walked up to me with one of those tall boys of Miller Lite that I was telling you about, and he goes,
Yeah.
I switched because of you guys. And I'm like, wow, thank you. Yeah, he loves how Wisconsin Miller is. I think we taught him a thing or two. His name is Patrick, and he made the switch. He's like, I'm out. I'm on Miller Lite, and it's because of you. Go Pack, go. And we won that one. Not so much this time.
I'm teary-eyed. It's like teachers. If I can just affect one life, I will have done my job.
Winning, we won.
Here we are. That's it. We're just,
Boom.
one person at a time. We're just trying to change and improve lives.
The rest of this thing is bonus. Awesome. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/inside Wisconsin to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. That reminds me, we're doing the low carb thing right now. And the 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces, I can do that math.
Yep.
I did lose my ability to do said math as the night went on, but I know that I was under 50 carbs in the day. Just happened to all be in Miller Lite. Oopsie.
Now, if we just work on how many ounces it is so that next time your shoulder's hurting, because I got so much extra weight on my shoulder.
Next. All right, we're back on the Inside Wisconsin show. Trevor John and the CEO and co-founder of Carbliss, Adam Craner. Adam, thanks for being here. And not all heroes wear capes. Thank you for finding this. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
So I need to know, how drunk did people think you were when you said, I think I'll start a liquor company?
Probably pretty drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it really was this methodical next step, and it has always felt like the next step. But yeah, when we look back on it, we just launched in St. Louis yesterday, and their VP of sales used to work for a big brewery, and he's just going like, I don't get it. You just saw the problem, and within a year we had it on the shelf, and it always felt normal. But yeah, a lot of people do not think that's normal.
What was the problem?
The other
Go ahead, Jay.
The other thing I noticed is you're sitting here you're the person we're talking to. But give me the role your wife has played in this, because I feel like, like we should have her in the picture.
Yeah. So my wife is our co-founder. She works for another company, Van Horn Automotive, big dealership in Wisconsin. So I created the liquid, And she has been, I would call it the rock to my kite. I'm the type of person that, like, when she asked me, what's your plan if you want to put this in a can? I said, well, I'm going to put it in a can. I'm going to sell the shit out of it. And, she looked at me, she goes, no, what's your plan? And I'm like, as the good husband I am, I said, I just told you my plan. I'm going to put it in a can. I'm going to sell the shit out of it. And she didn't like that. So being an accountant by trade, she ended up giving me like 25 questions that really ended up being the framework of our original business plan. So when I have this, grandiose idea to launch something different or weird, she's the one to kind of bring me back and go, hey, we've got a lot of opportunity within our current footprint and with the product that we know that sells. So she does a really good job of keeping me in the lanes, and she's given me a great understanding of accounting, finance, helped me understand the books. I've always ran operations, but didn't have a true understanding of the balance sheet and profit and loss, and she's really helped me learn that.
As every wife does for a guy that has a kite. I know the feeling. So you mentioned the problem. Okay, so what was the problem? And it is so Wisconsin to go, I'm going to fix the problem by making myself a drink. And here we are.
Yeah, so if we go back to 2018, I was with a bunch of friends in Elkhart Lake. And I think it was Memorial Day weekend. So, had the first hot day. Everybody's out at the lake with their kids. A buddy of mine, we'd been doing keto for about 5 months. And I was drinking vodka, water, lemon, lime. Super boring, but allowed me to be sociable. He walks up with a tall, white, skinny can and says, hey, man, here, you should try this. It's low carb, low sugar, right up your alley. I took a sip and I actually spit it back into the lake. And I was like, yeah, that's not worth it. And in my summary, it was super carbonated, not very flavorful. And it wasn't worth it. Like with the vodka water, I knew what I was getting. And I expected a lot more. And yeah, my wife tried it, didn't like it. I started mixing stuff up with vodka very quickly, not knowing that those were beer or sugar brew based. And very quickly came up with a vodka lemonade. Everybody loved it. And I mean, within about 2.5, 3 months, there was a lot of processes we went through, but we decided to make it a business. I thought, this thing I'm making, somebody else has done it. I bought about $500 worth of product from a bunch of local stores, and all the products tasted like the one I didn't like. Very carbonated, not very flavorful. We wanted to have that bar crafted cocktail taste with the benefits of what people loved about the nutrition panel. And I did interview about 300 people, probably July of 2018. And I said, why are you drinking that? And the answer I would get is it's low carb, it's low sugar, it's low calorie. Huh. I mean, I love Bloody Marys and margaritas, and that's not the reasons I would give you. So I would follow up with, do you like the taste? 9 times out of 10, the best answers I would get is, it's okay. Now, mind you, by 2019, 2020, those companies did billions in revenue. And so I would follow up with, hey, what if I gave you a vodka lemonade that had the same nutrition panel? I wouldn't even have it out of my mouth. And everybody would be like, oh, yeah, I'd much rather drink that. Now, I didn't go get a business degree. And I will tell you that if you did and you found out that I interviewed 300 people, didn't sample them on the product, just asked them a question and started a business off of it with my life savings, that I'm an absolute idiot. But here we are, here and having a chat.
I love it.
Goes back to my first question when it happens, when it comes through. I just feel like, though, if I've never gone to any bar, any place and said, before we pour that, let's talk nutritional panel, like there are things at stake here that we don't think of when we just pour me a drink. What kind, how did you get informed on some of these things, right? Because it's just so not what we think of, think of, what do I want a cherry or an orange light? These are the things I think about with my nutritional panel.
Yeah. And so this starts out as we were doing keto. So January of 2018, we were doing keto, and there's some people who will say, alcohol is not part of it, but I mean, we're from Wisconsin. Let's be real.
Giddy up.
I'm going to drink. So I had Googled vodka doesn't have any carbs or sugar. And just to be safe, I would just use water and I would squeeze a lemon and lime that has a little carbs and sugar, but it gave it some flavor. And so I had Googled that and I knew that. As far as every can, like Michelob Ultra.
Yep.
That's part of why it has become, in my opinion, popular. It's got some decent flavor, but it has lower carbs and sugar. So it allows you to, maintain that lifestyle. But yeah, you're right. Like if you're mixing a vodka cranberry, we have a vodka cran that's no carbs, no sugar, 100 calories. But if you mix one at the bar, it's about 20 grams of carbs, 20 grams of sugar, 250 calories. You're exactly right. In alcohol, it's not required to put that stuff on the panel, so nobody's looking at it.
Right.
How do I get by then? Because if you've been on this diet, that's the whole, I think, for a lot of people is no carbs, no sugar, like no thank you, because how could this possibly taste good, right? Like every time the person says, we have a flourless chocolate cake. No, you don't. If it doesn't have flowers, you got a brick. Like how, like I feel like that might be the biggest thing to get past.
Yep.
To
You're 100% right, John. So that was our challenge when we came out is our can was meant to look similar to the other ones because we wanted to pull from that market. What you just said is exactly why I don't do a ton of social media marketing, because if you're scrolling and you see our can, it's like, oh, cool. It's the same as the last 20 that I hated.
Mm-hmm.
We focus very much on guerrilla style marketing, boots on the ground. 80% of our team is a boots on the ground sales force that is focusing on being a personal brand and going out and getting liquid to lips. For exactly that reason. Our product is drastically different, but you don't know until you put it in your mouth. And I mean, I've launched with 50, 60 distributors, and I tell them a very in-depth story of how this came about. And I started interviewing them as I was riding with them afterwards, like, hey, how much did you believe me that our product was different? And they're all like, yeah, we didn't. So if the owner of the company who created the liquid can't convince you by way of conversation that this product is drastically different, how can I expect anybody else to? Because they've been sold the same story 30 other times and the products were all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, we invest very heavily on how do I get product into people's mouths, because that is what will show them that it is absolutely different.
So you started this here in Wisconsin, Adam, and I believe you said you started making it in Wisconsin, but there's more to becoming who Carbliss is today than just going, hey, I made a good drink. Let's put it in a can and sell the shit out of it. Like, what are some of the hoops that you had to jump through specifically here at home in order for this to become what it is?
Well, my past life, I was a managed co-pack plants in cheese. Shocker. But so I had this assumption that people kind of like knew what they were doing in co-pack. So our first co-packer was from Wisconsin. I won't name names. They suck. Within 3 months, all my product was leaking. 75% of my revenue I had to pay back. If I wasn't, I was still working full time. If I wasn't, business would have folded. So the big learnings were that not everybody has the same operational expectations that I did and the companies that I worked for. So that was a very hard pill to swallow because that was supposed to be my expertise. Legalities are different. In one, our product is vodka based. The original seltzers are malt based. We're taxed, I kid you not, like 10,000% more. So a case of Miller Lite, a case of White Claw, they're considered a beer. When they come into the state of Wisconsin, they're taxed around 6 cents total for all 24 cans. We are taxed $11.
Wow.
So somebody sees it on the shelf, and I remember like doing pricing at first, and I was like, how the heck am I so far off? And lo and behold, that's why all these other products use a malt base originally, was because you couldn't be price competitive. And then the laws of as far as what you can do, like this sign up here in Wisconsin, I can go give it to a bar owner and say, hey, thanks for all your support. Why don't we hang this up so people know that Carbliss is available? In other states, that's not legal. They have to buy it through a third party. It's considered something of value that you can't give. So it's been a lot of learning curve where, CPG is CPG, but each little thing has its nuance. In a water brand, I'd have to buy shelf space at retail. That is illegal in booze. So that's beneficial, but we're selling then on the merits of the brand. So there's been a lot of learning curves of a lot of it just being elk bev specific. They're antiquated laws from Prohibition in 1933, to be completely honest.
John, you go. I'm texting him my address so I get one of those Wisconsin Carbliss signs. You go.
I know what that is. Like when I lived in Missouri, every once in a while, you're like, wait, why can't you do this on Sunday? Or like the blue laws are crazy. And that's in a state that has a huge liquor lobby because, Anheuser-Busch is there. When you do that, do you ever think, and you're selling this, but I don't care if you're pick a widget. You're like, how are we, do you people want business to succeed? Yeah, did you go up against that? Like I said, I don't care if I'm selling a toilet seat or cheese or Carbliss or whatever, radiators. You just go, wait, you realize if we sell more, probably everybody does better.
Yeah. And even like I've had some people, so Wisconsin, the state tax for a beer-based item is around 2 cents for a case, and ours is $7.56. Well, we have in 2023, the state of Wisconsin received roughly $5 million from Carbliss. So a lot of people are like, well, why don't you lobby to get that lowered? I mean, one, we've got a lot of other things to prioritize, but I'm going to go lobby to the state to make less money. Like, yes, I agree. It would bring a lower price to the consumer. We'd be able to sell more product. But at the end of the day, convincing a government entity that they should just make less money, that's not where I'm focusing my time right now. But it does confuse me quite a bit. But it also makes sense when you think about who lobbied. So
Sure.
Beer tax is low in Wisconsin, and liquor tax is high. Molson or Miller was here, right? So that makes sense. You go to Tennessee and Kentucky,
Right.
Jack and Jim are down there, right? And the liquor tax very low, beer tax super high. It makes sense.
So, because that's really sexy for our listeners talking about, rules and regulations like that. Let's go back to let's get the old liquid on the lips. So it's great that you're mixing it up for your friends and they're testing it. But if I got to sell it, I got to make a lot more, right? Like I can make a pitcher of Kool-Aid, which by the way has a lot of sugar in it. How do I go from making, here's a drink or two for my friends to, I need vats of this stuff, but I got to make it taste exactly like it was in this portion.
That was pretty much the biggest challenge to launching on time. So I couldn't, that is one thing I knew from co-packing is that I could find somebody to make this in a big batch, but I didn't know how. Mm-hmm. What I was using was about 4 ingredients. Now each of our flavors is about 9 ingredients. I reached out to a vodka company that I was using. They didn't reply to adamcraner@gmail.com. Reached out to a local co-packing company. Nobody was willing to help, which I get, as a standard email. But I ended up Googling, how do I bring my beverage to life? That is no joke what I put into Google. Had 3 companies pop up, reached out to all 3. 1 didn't get back to me. 2 did. One of them is the partner that ended up formulating. It's Sovereign Flavors out of California. So we had to pay a down payment, which is when we started the business officially. And they said, we'll give you R&D time to make this into a 1,000-gallon batch. And then once I had that, then I knew I could go find a co-pack partner to actually get it in the product. That took about 6 months. I ended up having to fly out to California after 6 months of aggravation. But I'm not a beverage guy. So when I say, hey, I want it to be more limey, they put more lime in it, but turns out I wanted more citric acid to make my jowl pinch like you would with real lime juice.
Interesting. Man, things you don't know. Did you notice when you developed this here in Wisconsin and we're taste testing it in Wisconsin that Wisconsin had your back in a unique way, right? We talk about statriotism, the zealous patriotism for one's home state. I don't know that a lot of people know that Carbliss actually was founded here. I mean, you're here in Wisconsin, in Plymouth. Do you notice that we kind of do this better than anybody else?
I nerd out about brand in general. So take beverage out of it. Like when I was, like I said, it's just in St. Louis. A mile up the road from my house is Sargento, one of the biggest, probably the biggest cheese brand in the U.S. 5 miles from my house is Johnsonville. Tons of sausage pumping out from there.
Brats.
Kohler is 10 minutes from my house, right? So I just explained a no carb, no sugar barbecue, and you can flush it all down the toilet through Kohler. And that's all been sponsored by Wisconsin and their amazing brands.
Do you find when I worked in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was one street, 71st, but it had every kind of restaurant you could imagine. I thought that's amazing. Well, I found out Tulsa was a great test market because they thought, well, if people will eat it here, they'll eat anywhere. For your beverage, how is Wisconsin as a test market? Like, because I feel like sometimes we'll drink and try anything, we think beer and brandy, but we're like, but we're more adventuresome than that.
Yeah. So it's been interesting. I've heard multiple different opinions from, call it, actual industry. We never really took that into consideration. I had a friend who worked for Miller, and this is before Carbliss. In 2016, he made a comment to me that they've never trialed something specifically in Wisconsin because, to his point, Wisconsinites will drink anything. And then I heard and I kind of like took that as that could be a challenge, right? Because yes, our product is doing well here. Does that extend other places? But then recently, within the last year, somebody said, well, we were told Wisconsin's a really good market because there's so many wide ranges of demographics from, close to the UP down to Milwaukee, Lake Geneva, Door County. Like you've got a spread of demographics. And so if it does well in Wisconsin, it's very good chance that you can spread that demographically to other states and areas. And that's what we're finding to be the most true. It is, we've created a process that's very drag and drop to different parts of the market.
Have you noticed that the category is more female heavy versus male heavy? Because John has never had it. He lives in Connecticut, although you'll be home next week, JA, so I think you should probably partake. The last Carbliss I had was 12 hours ago. Yeah, 12 hours. So do you notice, though, then this whole keto diet thing and the low carb, like I'm a beer guy, but I've definitely had Carbliss. We're partial to Miller Lite on this show, right? But how do you go after that? And is it female heavy?
So I think the market was female heavy. Carbliss is very 50-50. And I'm going to tell you why I think it is. So me, when it comes to drinking, I explained I was drinking vodka water. I've seen other people do the similar diet, right? And they would have maybe 1 or 2 vodka waters. I was a little more disciplined, but by the time they got to 6 or 7, they're like, screw it. I'm going back to craft beer. They've got little intoxication and the diet goes out the window. And I think men are a lot more apt to do that, to say, screw it. I'm just drinking what I want. So when you think about the products that people didn't necessarily enjoy the flavor, but they like the nutrition panel, females would continue to drink it because they want to stay strict to the diet. Men would generally give that up for something that they actually enjoyed to consume. The benefit of Carbliss is it tastes just like that full flavored item. So why am I going to purchase a different product and consume something completely different when I can have a flavorful drink and get all the benefits that I was looking for? And that is the one piece that I have not found another product on the market that offers full flavor and has the nutrition panel that everybody else does. Usually you have to give something up. With Carbliss, you don't.
Listen, that you got Trevor off his skinny girl margaritas. That's good for you. That's an amazing thing what he did there. You say you're growing by leaps and bounds. Give me context of what that means, right? Like I made one in my backyard and now I sell 50 of them. Give me some scale so I can be impressed.
2019, we sold 2,200 cases. There's 24 cans in a case. 2020, we sold 42,000 cases. No, I'm backed up. I'm sorry. 2020, we sold around 8,000 cases. We had no revenue for 4 months due to a different co-packer issue. 2021, we sold about 40,000 cases. 2022, we sold 420,000 cases. 2023, we sold 1.7 million cases.
Cool.
So we just quadruple. Well, no, the first one's over 100 times. Okay. So that works. And now you tell me I can order it online. Thanks. But I can't get it here for a while. And it does not make sense to me. I'm growing. I'm making more. The product, there is a demand, but yet you're not trying to cover all 50 states yet. How come?
Yeah, it's I mean, going back to Shark Tank, the amount of people you've seen pitch on there and go, hey, I just need money for inventory. You can't make enough it's a strictly a cash flow thing. One, we did not make any profit until part of the way through 2022. So we burned through about $1 million in the first 2.5 years. So that's part of it. But as we're making product, for example, this month we're making 400,000 cases. Actually, January is 600,000. So that's going to cost me somewhere between $7, $8, $9 million. We're going to sell maybe 100,000 cases, and I'm going to make 3 million. So I'm 6 million in the hole. We're doing this because what's going to happen is we're going to launch a bunch of distributors, and by June, July, August, we'll be selling probably 500,000 cases a month. But I have to bet on the come, and I have to put money in inventory because if I don't, the co-packers won't be able to keep up in the summer. So just the quick math exercise I gave you, I'm making $9 million worth of product. I'm only selling 3, and I'm going to do that for the next 3 months. So where's the $15 million come from? The only place we invest when we make money is we hire more people and we invest in more inventory.
Did I just hear you say no sevens? Like, no, don't roll a 7. Is that what you just said? You're betting on the come. I feel like that was craps, right?
I suck at craps, so no, it wasn't.
Okay, yeah, got it.
You know who doesn't suck at craps? Kenny Mayne. Someday I'll tell you, if you're like, literally the man has a pair of dice and we'll get in a commercial break and he'll just roll them. All right, new shooter coming out. And he would roll dice for 3.5 minutes till they go coming back in 30. So when that, it's just one more crazy thing about our man. So when you first made $1, right? Like the temptation is like, I'm going to frame that check. But if it sounds like if I made $1, I'm going to need that right now to help make $2, and we put it right back in.
It is with the way we're growing the brand, and that is the only option.
Right.
I mean, it's something that I never truly understood watching Shark Tank and why people were asking for inventory. Same thing, like, well, if you're making money, how do you do that? It's just gross profit in a segment like this. Like if you're growing that fast, it is absolutely impossible to keep up with cash. Now, to your point, I could go raise venture capital. They're knocking on my door every single day. We could partner with a private equity firm and have, oodles of money. But I am doing this because I like not being told what to do. And if we raise money, somebody else is going to tell me what to do. So we decide to grow methodically. And also, we do think it's better for the market. I want Carbliss to be around in 30, 40, 50 years. There's a lot of companies that we compete with that I would call it our flash in the pan. They raise some money, they go national, and 2 years later, nobody's heard about them.
Is that interesting so maybe your wife is like mine. I have aspirations to someday own a little mom and pop bar, to which she was like, probably not a great idea, Trev. You shouldn't live in a bar. You live in the place.
I'm going to be with her and discourage you in that, but go ahead.
I appreciate that. You're welcome. But you make the stuff that's served in a bar. Yeah. Seeing me drink a Carbliss or 2 or a Miller Lite or 2. There's a reason for this. Anyway, you make the stuff that they sell. So, like, Adam, what's the crossover between being a consumer and actually owning the product that people consume in the stores, like Festival, and in the bars? I mean, how do you juggle that? I guess maybe that's the question.
Well, I'm only a consumer at places that sell Carbliss because I'm only going to pay people that are paying me. But I had a friend of mine that I just recently hired to help us with PR and communications. She was out in the market with me this week. And I said, from a 1 to 10, 10 being this is exactly what I expected Adam did out in the market. What does it look like? And she's like, 1. But it's, bar owners, bartenders, but seeing the back end of everything that they do when they're not serving the consumer, it is a drastically different business. But I'd say part of where we've been successful is I used to bartend. Our first hire used to bartend. So we've focused very much on bars and restaurants. There's a lot of things we do different because we focus on making them more money. And that creates kind of a rising tide thing where if we don't think collectively Carbliss is going to fit, then we walk out. But 9.9 times out of 10, there's a really good chance that we can find a way to help you make more money with our product. And with lower carbonation, generally there's higher consumption. So it is a win-win across the board. They make more money, they sell more product. That means we're doing well, and then it spreads.
Trev, I'll tell you what, there's a wonderful man named Judson Birch, longtime coordinating producer at ESPN, whose brother owns 2 bars. And he says, the only problem with the bar business, there's only 2 problems. It's the customers and the employees. But you go ahead and keep going, and I think you're going to be great. Adam, when you were on this diet, I want to know, forget what you're washing it down with. What did you miss most just on the diet that you had to give up?
Oh, I would say like going, Wisconsin, we're supper clubs, and I bartended at Repke's Village Inn in Charlesburg. They have a dank salad bar and amazing tuna nudie salad. Wow, do I sound Wisconsin? But I would say like that and like a twice baked potato. That was the hardest to stay away from, because it's like you can't even take a bite. You're over your carb load. So that was probably the hardest. Even Italian restaurant bread. But I have found how much that stuff didn't make me feel good, and now I'm to the point where I avoid it in most meals.
Okay, so you're not working on a carbless double baked but twice baked potato?
Not right now.
Damn. Okay. Well, see, I was kind of hoping that that's the direction I was going at, right? Like, okay,
We might have to invent a new vegetable if that's
boom.
the case.
That could be, I just see. Okay, so I'm going to put that down. Baker, double bake, forget it, no shot. I don't know what else to say other than
I eat
this.
a lot of string cheese though. That's a great no carb snack.
There you go.
Yeah.
You and my
Like
man.
I said,
Bootsy go on.
Johnsonville sausage.
The last thing I need to know is, do you have an Oscar or a Grammy nomination? Because it seems like all those people have a liquor line, right? Like it's whether. Do you feel like you're up for one eventually? Because I know whether to pick one. Clooney, Peyton Manning's got a whiskey. Like, that's kind of the trendy thing to do. So I just assume that you have some sort of Grammy or Oscar nomination, maybe an Emmy.
I had a few of them, but I really don't like to talk about it, so we should skip.
Right.
But the funny thing is I have avoided influencers for that. A lot of this, there's companies out there that'll develop a product and they just want the easy money. So let me get an influencer, somebody who's got clout, and put their name on it. And then everybody's going to know about it because their social media is insane, and see what happens. What we're seeing happen, though, is the products that are good are doing very well. Clooney, that is a good tequila. And I believe Clooney was actually part of creating that. A lot of these, though, they give them 10% of, and I'm making up a number, they give them 10% of the business, and they're like, just be the face of it.
Yeah.
So the liquid in a lot of these sucks. So you might buy it one time and there's a huge flash of PR, but if the liquid sucks, the consumer's not coming back.
Your liquid does not suck.
Yeah, we go the other way. And so one thing I've challenged our marketing team is starting to look at influencers. And I said, the challenge is you have to understand what could happen in 5 years, because if we have an influencer that isn't paid by us, or they're getting paid by us, right, and they're touting Carbliss, the challenge is if they do something in 4 years, the consumer assumes that is our company's, design. And that's something I'm very fearful of, because, it's hard enough to control what we're doing and seeing, and having somebody that's not affiliated with the brand, you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. And that gets associated to your brand, whether you like it or not.
Your liquid influences itself. My wife goes to the bar and says, I'd like a purple Carbliss. That's how she orders it, a purple Carbliss. And out comes a purple Carbliss with a glass of ice and a straw, because that's how she drinks it. It's amazing. John will get you one next week. That's how I drink
mine too.
I like it. Adam, thanks for joining us, man. It's great to tell this Wisconsin story. It just happens to be in the category that we love most here at home. Appreciate what you do, man. Keep doing it.
Thank you, Trevor and John. Appreciate your time.
That's the key right there. First, start with a state of drunks and go from there, right? Like you gotta have a wanting market, and we have that for sure. Thanks so much for your time.
You've got a business plan. That's it.
There you go.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us. The nearest liquor store to my home, JA, Festival Foods, the wine and spirits section. It is its own liquor store. When you're home, I know you're coming home soon, you got to pop in there with mom and check out the wine and spirits. Seriously, take her over there, find some Miller Lite.
A little medicinal for the 82-year-old woman. A little medicinal just to make sure you stay loose.
Hey, it makes you sleep better, right? It just does. The wine and spirits section.
She's 82 and she will knock back an old fashioned like nobody's business.
They have all the fixings.
Cut herself off at 3, but you're 82. Who's going to stand in the way of that?
They got beer. I wonder why they call it wine and spirits. I don't think beer qualifies as a spirit, or is it just
spirits?
You walk into a grocery store, there's going to be beer, but when they call it the wine and spirits, they have a gigantic beer cave. Why doesn't beer get the honorable mention? What do you think?
It's not. Yeah, you mean it should get in the title? Because spirits is all, that's your whiskey and your vodkas and your. By the way, when on the Packer game the other day, were you just straight Miller Lite? Because I had some of those, and then at some point I'm like, I might need something a little more stiff. And then when I got up the next morning, I'm like, there's an array Now it wasn't a full wine and spirit shop, but there was an array where, like, I know some people like I start with this and I'm going to stay with this, right? I don't want to mix my liquor.
So I'm
That's
so
not
glad
me.
you brought
I'm ready to go. I'm give me the smorgasbord. So there might have been a hard seltzer, there might have been some beer, there was some beer, there was an empty tequila bottle. There was a lot of stuff. I went, some
Okay,
people
so that's
some people switch seats trying to change their luck. I guess I was just trying different liquors to see which one would stick.
It worked for a minute. So, yes, I was on the Miller Lite. However, when my buddy Danny got there, again, we had some friends over for the game. He goes, all right, Jello shots, what do we got for when we score touchdowns? And I'm like, dude, didn't think about that. He goes, what's the nearest liquor store? And I said, Festival Foods, Wine and Spirits, literally right down the road. Not kidding. He goes, all right, I'll be right back. And he left, and he missed kickoff because he drove to Festival Foods and bought 3 bottles. He had big wishes. He bought 3 bottles of apple pie. You know what that is?
Yeah.
You know what apple pie is. Ironically, it was made here in Wisconsin. So
we have priorities.
We only unfortunately went through 1 bottle of touchdown shots because there wasn't a whole lot of touchdowns. No. But Festival Foods to the rescue, the wine and spirit section. Get there.
Yeah, well, there'll be more games coming. It's all right.
Time for another top 5 list here on the Inside Wisconsin show, presented by Wisconsin's leaders in STEM. The University of Wisconsin Platteville. UW Platteville's exciting STEM programs make it a top university in Wisconsin and the Midwest region. In fact, UW Platteville is ranked in the top 20 for regional universities here in the Midwest. Find out more at uwplatt.edu. J.A., this is shaping up to be one of my favorite episodes ever. Big fan. Big fan.
First off, is there a Carbliss flavor you would like? Like, what's the purple one?
That's just it. I honestly don't know the flavor.
I think that's probably black cherry. There's a margarita. Yeah. Like, is there a flavor, something that you like? Right? Are you a lime guy? Or
Oh, yeah. I am a lemon lime guy. If I had to choose, and I enjoy that, I do enjoy the lemon lime flavor, but I'm not opposed to the purple one. I've had the margarita one that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a raspberry guy. Maybe that's the best. Like, not super picky when it comes to my beverages, other than Miller Lite. Big fan, but yeah, I mean, I can pretty much drink anything.
So I jotted these down. I have been in touch with the R's because you think I don't know all these people. I've been in touch a little with their R&D department.
Have you?
Yeah. And these are the top 5 rejected Carbliss flavors.
Well.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you want to come up with some of your own, but these are the top 5 rejected Carbliss flavors. Okay.
Interesting. Shoot.
Yeah. Number 5, cheddar.
What?
Yeah. Cheddar Carbliss seems like it would be terrible. So they just said, no, we're not going to make a cheddar version of Carbliss. That'll be
not
bad.
Even aged cheddar Carbliss?
Nope. No.
Cheddar
Number 4 rejected Carbliss flavor was smelt. They're like, I don't think we can sell that. Probably not going to do that.
That makes prom go south, if I remember some stories right.
Yeah. Number 3 is yellow snow. We thought there would be there'd be some demand when it came out, and Carbliss is like, we're not going to go any farther. I know it's
no
winter,
yellow
we get
snow.
A chance.
Yeah. That's a lot.
You would care to guess what number 2 is?
Milk.
No, number 2 is venison. Much like it's like, I don't know that people are going to go for but because it would be a great pairing, but
it would.
Again, after some early taste test, venison Carbliss, terrible.
Right up the flagpole, at least. That's worth it. And what's number 1?
The number 1 rejected Carbliss flavor is Fox River. Not really sure what that was going to be like. Made from the natural waters, because it works from the big water of the Chippewa River for a Leinenkugel. So they tried Fox River, and that also nothing. So
I'm really they have some smart R&D people there over at Carbliss, because that's really that's sound advice.
I have offered them, and we're waiting to see if it'll go. I've offered Brewer's Secret Stadium sauce because I figure there's no way that would be a bad taste. But we'll see. That one they're working on. But those 5, cheddar, smelt, yellow snow, venison, Fox River, all those not coming to a store or a bar near you.
Good. I have a really bad gag reflection. Some of those flavors in the Carbliss, or any drink for that matter, would.
Yeah. And I didn't want to embarrass Adam when he was here, because he's going to be like, I get it. Right. I don't have to. He didn't want to have to explain how that got there. But, if you're trying to grow, trying to make it feel like Wisconsin. Yeah.
Good
so none of
shot.
those
It's worth
again.
a shot. Aye. All right, on to the next. I'll take another one. Thank you. Just none of those. The water that I have on my desk off camera, not cutting it for this episode. Like we're talking about all sorts of different flavorful drinks, and I am sitting here with a bottle of water.
I tell you what, it's admirable self-restraint by you to get through the show without trying to just get bombed. Good.
Appreciate it. You're welcome.
Good job by you. But by the way, I also found this online. If anybody's interested and want to go help Jake at some point, the University of Wisconsin, they have an award-winning manual, 28 pages online, growing grapes in Wisconsin. So that's just your start, right? If you don't have the product, you got to have the raw material to get on there. But yeah, 28 pages. I combed through that baby, and I just thought I don't want to put up trellises and all this other
say,
like way
not a retirement career for you,
right? Exactly, way too hard when we're going to do that. So anyway, yeah, fascinating stuff by both those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty is, right, if you have enough, you can totally forget you ever watched the episode.
Yeah, I mean,
into
kind of like trying to forget the Packer game, trying to forget it. Like I
know where I was headed, right? Like the season is over, and so usually we have John Wisconsin. I thought, well, we did a top 5, but my John Wisconsin right now would be, can I just tell you about some of those painful sports memories as a kid? Like, is that too dark to go that way?
I don't think so. Memories are good. Some are good, some are not so
none of
great.
These are all haunting and terrible and nightmarish terror screams, you know? So I don't know if this means we have a bonus top 5 or if I just have a John Wisconsin where I get to just complain. But feel free to chime in if I've missed anything. And I went through and I thought it can't be a top 5 list, Trevor, because I have like 20 horrible, terrible.
What we're talking about here are bad losses by Wisconsin sports teams that were not over yet.
Right, which, by the way, doesn't even include my horrible Missouri 5th down and the kick 6 and all these other things that I had to live through.
It's outside the border, yeah.
We lost in Missouri once because some dude couldn't count to 5. Not just some dude, all 7 referees on the field. None of them decided to stop at 4. Here, let's go with one more. So that'll never be. But here's my collection of some Wisconsin ones, if you want to know.
Okay.
And so I don't know if these go. I tell you what, we'll make them 5, but then you got to hear through some of these, some of my honorable mentions.
I'm sure I can rattle off 5 off my head too. We'll see how many we share. Go for it.
Okay. You won't share this one because one of the most painful was at Lombardi Junior High at the time.
Okay.
The basketball team there, led by the great Todd Teskey and Jim Jansen and Matt Sikowski and Jeff Hansen and Mike Mao and Rodney Bohm and Tom Brzezinski, of which Byron and I were both managers on that team because we couldn't play a lick. So they had gone through all of junior high, 7th, 8th, and 9th, had not lost a game. And their very last game, they played against Franklin. And the Franklin team, they beat it. The news was out there, local news, and they lost the game. The Spartans lose the game. It was horrible. So they go like 39-1, and they lose the last one. So and all those kids, by the way, at Franklin, obviously then go to West High School, and in high school they get coached by Steve Nault, who had been the great high school coach at Southwest through the Anderson brothers and Zukowskis, and he takes them down, and they make it all the way to the state semifinal. Very painful. Would you believe like the Super Bowl loss, Super Bowl 32 to Denver doesn't even make my list?
Yeah, it didn't make mine either as I was thinking about this, to be honest. We had just won one. Maybe that was just hanging on with us.
This will not be on your list, but it's on my 1992 National Hockey Championships. UW should have won, got pounded 5-3 by Lake Superior State. You probably don't remember that, even though it's in your lifetime and you should.
CHA, right? WCHA.
This was for the national championship. Lake Superior State, not a WCHA school, but yes.
Right. See, I tried.
The Badgers were. Good try there. There were a couple of years. Well, the one year Russell Wilson was there. They lost 2 horrible games. The Badgers did. Kirk Cousins, that SOB. By the way, see, if I had all the product we just discovered on that show, it would be a different name than the SOB.
Not so rated. Got it.
Right at the buzzer. Nothing but 000s on the clock. He beat them at Michigan State. The next week, they lost on a Hail Mary or whatever it was, a long pass with about 20 seconds left to Ohio State. So all these things are horrible in my life. Now here are the worst ones. 1981, Wisconsin, Iowa. The Hawks win 17-7. They end up in the Rose Bowl. Badgers had a chance to go to the Rose Bowl. 81. Wouldn't have had to wait till Barry Alvarez, the whole thing.
Interesting.
So that was horrible.
Okay.
Doesn't affect you at all. Good to see.
Not a lot.
Do you remember 20 years ago when they played the Eagles, Packers-Eagles?
Is this 4th and 26?
4th and 26, Freddie Mitchell, I'd like to thank my hands. Hey, Darren Sharper, why don't you take a little deep drop? You know? Bao Ju, he made the tackle and he wasn't his guy. That was terrible. 4th and 26. You gave up 4th. They were the number
Donovan
one.
McNabb?
Donovan McNabb, 4th and 26 to Freddie Mitchell. Years later at a Walter Camp Award dinner, I was there. Freddie was there because he'd been an All-American at UCLA. And he and I chat and commiserated. I think I still have Freddie's name and my phone number in my phone here. If perchance he's out of the Huskow.
Non-Wisconsin.
Did a little time. Number 3, if this isn't on your list, then we're just going to cancel the show. The 2015 Final Four national championship game, Duke beating us 68-63, right?
I want it happened. The clock
That's number 3 on my list. That's on your list?
Yeah, it's on my list.
Yeah, got to be on your list.
Has to be.
Terrible.
Oh,
This one is fresh to me, but obviously it didn't happen. You never would know about it. So I'm at 1982. That was before you were born. 1982 World Series Game 7 when they lose to the Cardinals.
I'm aware
it's
the only time.
1982. It was terrible. And then the next year, so they lose in 82. And then the next year, that's my senior year, fall of 82, 83, graduate. And then where do I go? University of Missouri, and room with Royals and Cardinal guys the rest of my college career.
Did we get shellacked in that, or was it a good game?
Wasn't good. We don't want to talk about it.
Damn
it. We don't want to talk about it. And number 1, what do you got? You got to guess? We've talked about this before. 1978. UWGB, the Phoenix, losing the national title game to Cheney State. Down in Springfield.
We have talked about that.
Yep, lost 47-40, and they lost to Cheney State, and sort of in a John, Wisconsin. Years later, when I was working here, John Cheney, at that time, Hall of Fame coach, right? He'd been inducted. He's coaching at Temple and had all this great success, and he's coming through for a car wash. And I go find him, and I said, you're responsible for one of the most painful memories of my childhood. And I said, I grew up in Green Bay, and when you were at Cheney State and won that game. And first, he was unbelievably gracious. And I think it was because he's like, wow, somebody knew I coached somewhere before Temple, even though I was still in Philly, and remember that game. And I just said, that was a little town I'm from. You have the Packers, but this team was great. And he was like, then he told me, don't forget, you played us the next year and beat us. And I'm like, right. And then still lost in the final. But it was just remarkable to see him, because he was kind of old and cantankerous sometimes and see me. But when you chatted about something like that, it was sort of, for lack of a better term, a little more intimate, a little more knowledgeable than just, hey, how'd you lose to UMass and yell at John Calipari? He was great and couldn't have been, he was kind of thrilled that somebody had remembered that, even as I was still anguished. And he could tell you most of the game and how they won. And he got mad at Dave Buss because sometimes he taught his guys in the free throw line to act like they were going in. So it was a marvelous thing. And he was unbelievably cool talking about it. But I'm still, 78, you're 13 years old. How great is that? I would have been 12 because I wouldn't have turned 13. But that was big. Would have loved that. Would have changed everything. Sonny Wicks' whole life would have been different if he'd have been that.
Pretty good. Yeah,
by the way, shout out to our guest, Sonny Wicks, man. He's got them rolling.
Absolutely killing it.
People show up. Go to the games.
Yeah, get to the Rush Center. It's loud in there, man, and there's only probably 1,500, 1,800. Imagine if there was 3,000, 4,000.
Get them in. There, you guys.
We will.
There's not a lot to do in the winter. Go.
There's a couple 2-tree on my list here that you didn't mention.
2-tree? What do you got there?
Your game 7 of the World Series is my game 7 of the NLCS. I would have loved to see them get to the World Series.
Yep.
Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers can go to hell. 2008 NFC Championship. It was Favre's last game. I was there, cold as all get out. I had toe warmers attached to my cheeks. It was stupid. And I was.
And you had hair then. And you had hair probably.
Yeah. And no beard. That was the worst part. All right. So I was right in line, John, where Favre threw the interception. Like, he threw it. We were going south. We were going south on the field. Favre threw it, and granted, he's 60 yards away, but the ball was coming right at me. And I saw, and I was like, no, because you saw it getting.
You were not the intended receiver.
No, I was not.
Neither
was the
remember
guy
how the
that
4th
caught
and
it.
26 game ended, right?
No.
So they make 4th and 26. They go down a couple plays later, kick a field goal, tie, go into overtime. Brett throws a pick. And then they go on to score. I think Brian Dawkins, Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer.
I got Badgers, Duke.
By the way,
The
I'm going
Packers-
to call Clayton Kershaw and tell him that you think he's a jerk.
Are you kidding me? And yeah, call him right now. I dare you.
Hey, I know you're
John.
trying to figure out this whole free agent thing, but my guy thinks you're a jerk.
Yeah, all the best. Listen, if he shows up in a M and a B, no, he can't. There's no way he's gonna. Maybe two more here. The Packers Seattle NFC Championship game. I don't know what year it was, but it's the Boston
Yeah.
Bumble.
That was hard.
Yeah. What year was that? 2014 ish.
Yeah, abouts. Has it been 10 years ago? Yeah, it probably, because they had a chance to go back. And that was another one. They had no business. They were going to get stomped. Remember that? They were going to the Seahawks, the mighty Seahawks, the Legion of Boom, they'll have no chance. And Brett played great. And then they didn't. And then the defense decided to let them score a touchdown, and then went to overtime and let them have another touchdown. It was
our boy Russell Wilson gave us a little payback.
And all you had to do is get out of the way. I think wasn't it Jordy that would have been right there?
Yeah. Yep. His
Here's
job.
Jordy.
Good. We're good. I won't go off. All right. Last one. Game 7 NBA East Finals. Big Dog, Ray Allen, Sam Cassell. They were playing the Sixers.
Yeah.
I don't know the year, but I was young. I remember that. Like, I went to a lot of Bucks games when I was a kid. My grandparents lived in Milwaukee. They dropped me off and picked me up, and that was a tough one, but not nearly as bad as some of these other ones that we've mentioned. And I know that you have a list of 50 more probably.
I could the Bucks lost a game 7 for the NBA championship to the Celtics when I was a kid, but I was only 5, 6. I can remember watching it at my aunt's house in Montezuma, Iowa. But I wasn't emotionally scarred enough then to know. You just, I wasn't one of those tearful kids right there at the moment. I just like, oh, that's too bad. The Bucks could, didn't fully grasp what was happening there at the time. But you know what? I'll just go put that back on my list for the next time we come through and visit these painful things.
The John Wisconsin Bad Memories edition. See, not all memories are good. We have
my
to
whole
sometimes
childhood
hear
was
these
not.
things.
It was not all rainbows and unicorn.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying. I got pain. I got
though.
scars. If you could, if I could see this heart got a lot of scar tissue.
A lot of scars.
You know,
All right, we'll get over it.
But here's why it hurts us, Trev, because you and I and most everybody that's watching this, it's because we're invested.
Oh, we're invested.
We're invested, and that's why it hurts, which is fine. I'd rather take it, You got to give your heart. You got to give it. You got to give love to get love.
And if you're going to lose a big game, at least you're in it. I mean, I texted my buddy Jason, who I guarantee you is going to see this. And I said, oh, man, this is after the Packers lost the other night. I said, nobody expected us to be here anyway. And I know that's a thing. And he goes, I don't have time for this kumbaya shit. And I'm like, life's too short not to see the sun. I
don't when there's a chance to win. If that thing's 30-21 and it goes back, that's why I said, like when they lost to Kaepernick out there and he ran over them, they ran for 370, he ran for 180. You're like, okay, there it is. That was a little different because you thought, they're pretty good. They might have a chance, but you were never there. This team, and again, they finished the year 10-9, So, but when you get there and you're close, and then the fella misses the field goal that could have made a difference. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. I was worried about that guy. But yeah, so that one will heal a lot easier than some of the others. You just hate in that moment. Like those are rare opportunities. It's just never guaranteed to try to get back there and go through that again. And each team is different. So, but what a season it was, right? That was a joyous end of that season. And they leave that season, despite the disappointment, with all kinds of promise, for next year. So and the only thing is, get ready, people. They're going to draft a tackle.
We have to.
They're just going to draft an offensive lineman. So I know you want somebody. We want somebody sexy, but we're going to get a big. That's it. We're going to get a big offensive lineman, and because that's how the draft goes.
Think we should draft the kicker?
Well, we tried that. So I don't know. But if they are, let's go for my guy at Mizzou. Go for Harrison Mevis, get the thicker kicker.
Thicker kicker.
That guy will who wouldn't love a guy that can kick it from 61 and has 32% body fat? Bring my guy on. Get
to
the
Wisconsin.
Kicker.
He will fit in quite well.
Right there.
All right. For John, I am Trevor. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Remember to subscribe and just share it. And by the way, with all of these bad memories, go ahead and post yours along with us.
Yeah. Find the joy, though, people. Find the joy. Yeah. We're here, right? We are purveyors of joy in the end.
When all else fails,
so people know that we empathize with what's happening. We're there.
Yeah.
We're still joyful.
Yes. And when all else fails, grab a Miller Lite. And everything gets better.
Yeah. And crank Paul Clayton Kershaw.
He will. There you go. Share me his number, would you? Okay. Goodbye, Wisconsin, as you were. We'll see you next time. Remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button. Just get with us.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Aaron's Company, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Shut up and sit down.